What's going on, Crimson Tide fans? Chris Daughtry here with the Alabama Football Report by Chat Sports. If you guys want Alabama to make a college football playoff run in 2025, go ahead and drop a like for me on today's video. The more likes we get on this video, the more games Alabama will win. Don't argue with me. It is just science. That is how it works. To help me out, go ahead and drop a like on today's video. All right, coming up, we're going to be breaking down Alabama's 2025 schedule and also making predictions for each game. And spoiler alert, Alabama does lose one game on these predictions, and might be the one you're thinking of, might not be the one you're thinking of, but we're going to get into all of it on today's show. I'm only going to do win or loss. I'm not going to try to do score predictions or anything like that. But first game for Alabama coming up here, going down to Florida State on August 30th for the first game of the season. They were really, really bad last year. They went 2-10 in 2024, and I would assume that it's going to be Tommy Castellanos as the quarterback for Florida State. He transferred in from Boston College, where he wasn't very good last year, but Gus Malzahn is the offensive coordinator now at Florida State, and Tommy Castellanos was really good as a running quarterback before Bill Belichick went and broke him. You look the 2023 stats compared to the 2024 stats. The only thing that Bill O'Brien did that maybe helped him out a little bit was he cut down on his interceptions. But you see those rushing yards, man, how do you go from 1,100 rushing yards and 13 rushing touchdowns to only 194 rushing yards and one touchdown? I think Castellanos can be really good in this Gus Malzahn type of offense. You remember, he likes to do a lot of trickery. He likes to run the quarterback. I would not be surprised if that's something that you saw out of Castellanos in this game. Alabama has had some trouble in the past stopping some of those running quarterbacks. You remember last year, Jackson Arnold ran for 131 yards in that game that Alabama had against Oklahoma. So I would not be shocked if Florida State went out there and tried to run the football with the quarterback. They also have Brock Glenn as well. He played a little bit last year for Florida State. Wasn't really good there. 4 passing touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Under 50% completion percentage there. They also have Kevin Sperry as a quarterback as well. He was a 4-star quarterback in that 2025 class. But like I said, he's probably not going to be your starter there. Also, might even see our old friend in Roydale Williams. He had a pretty bad year last year as well. Only 53 rushing yards on the season. So I've got Alabama winning this game, first game of the season against Florida State. But I would not be surprised if they had a little bit of trouble in terms of that stopping the quarterback run. So let me know here at the pinned comment of today's video. Predict Alabama's record in 2025. Let me know what you guys think at the pinned comment of today's video, especially if that ad comes here on YouTube. All right, after Florida State, Alabama goes back home and they play Louisiana Monroe on September 6th. That should be a pretty easy win for them. And then you have another game against Wisconsin. You played them last year at Wisconsin, beat the crap out of them. Unfortunately, their quarterback got hurt in that game. But I do think Alabama's going to get the win in this game as well. At quarterback, they've got Billy Edwards Jr., who I think is going to be their starting quarterback next year. He transferred from Maryland, and he's gotten better every season. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to try to dog him too much, but look, 10 interceptions to 15 touchdowns, that's still not very good either. But, we'll see what happens in terms of who they play at that quarterback position. They also have Danny O'Neal transferred in from San Diego State and Carter Smith as well, top 300 player in that 2025 class. But as of right now, I've got Alabama winning that game against Wisconsin. After that, you also have the bye week after week 3 there, and that is very important. Same time, actually, as last year that you had that exact same bye week before that Georgia game, and I do think that is going to be very, very big that Alabama can get healthy before they go and play the Georgia Bulldogs at Georgia. I'm going to predict as well that Alabama on September 27th wins that game again against Georgia. Until Georgia can prove that they can beat Alabama, I'm not going to pick them to win at all. It's just simple as that. I guess it's going to be Gunnar Stockton at quarterback there for Georgia. And look, last year he really only played in 2 notable games against Texas in the SEC championship game and then against Notre Dame in the college football playoffs. I didn't think he was terrible in that game against Notre Dame. Could he have been better? Absolutely. 1 touchdown, no interceptions, took a couple of sacks. That's why that rushing yards is negative there. But, I thought he had a lot of zip on his ball. And I think, just having another year and, excuse me, he's going to be that clear starter for Georgia this season. I think that he's going to have a lot of confidence with his team going into next year. So, I would not be surprised if Gunnar Stockton has a, really solid season for Georgia this year. I would not be surprised if it's better than Carson Beck had last year. Carson Beck got a lot of crap last year, but his wide receivers did lead the nation in drops, which Georgia did go and hit the transfer portal for that wide receiver spot. They also have Nate Frazier coming back again this year. He had a pretty solid season last year for Georgia as well. 671 yards, over 5 yards per carry there. Also 8 touchdowns for him. So, it comes back to that same thing. Can Alabama stop the run? Because Nate Frazier is a very good running back, and I would not be surprised if he had a really good season yet again in 2025. All right, this Vanderbilt game is going to be a get-back game for Alabama. I've got them winning this one, and I think this one's going to be a good old-fashioned murder ball type of game. These guys are really pissed off about losing to Vanderbilt last year. I could see this game really turning ugly. You remember back in 2019, we lost to LSU and Joe Burrow. That game was 46-41. The following year in 2020, Alabama went down to Baton Rouge and beat that ass 55-17. I could see the same type of game happening in this one where Alabama comes in and really proves a point, and they get that get-back game against Vanderbilt. All right, the following week, October 11th, you play at Missouri, and I've got Alabama winning this game as well until Missouri can become a consistent program. I'm not going to really give them a chance to beat Alabama. They've got Bo Pribula. He's a Penn State transfer. Remember, there was a lot of discussion about him when he hit the transfer portal during the college football playoff. Maybe he's good. We'll see. He really hasn't played, that much, if at all, for Penn State, now coming to Missouri. But look, Eli Drinkowitz, is kind of like a great value Kirby Smart, in my opinion. He talks a lot of crap to players on the opposing team, even when they're losing. And, it just like, I don't think that's not going to help you win ball games at the end of the day. Now, they do have a pretty solid running back in Ahmad Hardy. He transferred in from Louisiana, Monroe. He had a really solid season last year for them. Obviously, in the SEC, it's going to be a step up in competition. But when you're going 1,300 yards, over 5.5 yards per carry, 13 touchdowns, I really think that is going to translate pretty well in the SEC. Is their offensive line going to be good? I don't know. Is their quarterback going to be good? I don't know. But I do have Alabama winning this game here against Missouri. We'll continue on here in just a moment, but want to give a shout out to our friends over at Fanatics. You guys can get up to 30% off right now just by going to chatsports.com/Bama hoodie. They've got hoodies, they've got crew necks, they've got quarter zips, they've got everything that you guys could want in terms of Alabama gear over there. So if you need new gear to start off the 2025 season, go over to chatsports.com/Bama hoodie, and you guys could get up to 30% off today. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's video. There's also be a little clickable link over there in the corner of your screen as well. All right, the third Saturday in October, I've got Alabama beating Tennessee here. Look, they lost Nico Iamaleava, and, Dylan Sampson, in my opinion, really did carry their offense last year. So is that going to hurt them too much? I don't know. I guess we'll see. I do think their defense was good last year. We'll see if they're going to be good again this year. But they did get Joey Aguilar out of the transfer portal. He played last 2 years at Appalachian State, transferred to UCLA, and then Nico goes to UCLA. And then Joey Aguilar ends up transferring again in that spring transfer portal window to Tennessee. So we'll see what happens here. But look, he's a pretty solid passer. So I do think he's going to fit in pretty well here in this Tennessee offense. 36 total touchdowns in 2023, 25 total touchdowns in 2024. If he can get that interception number down a little bit, I think he's going to be pretty solid there. But you also do have Jake Merklinger, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He was the number 11 quarterback in that 2024 recruiting class. He's been in the program now for a couple of years, and that quarterback job is definitely up in the air right now for Tennessee, and I don't feel bad one bit for them. I hope they lose a lot of games this season, and I hope Alabama really does bring the boom on the third Saturday in October to Tennessee. Now this South Carolina game. This is my one game that I am a little bit nervous about. I do think it is a popular trap game type of pick for a lot of people out there. This is going to be their homecoming game as well. Look, Lenora Sellers is really getting a lot of hype right now as the number one quarterback in the 2026 NFL draft. Last year, he was pretty decent. If he can just kind of get that consistency a little bit more, I think Lenora Sellers is going to be really good for South Carolina. Obviously, there's some growing that he can do, but man, those guys down there, or up there, I guess, in South Carolina, play really hard for Shane Beamer. I love the atmosphere that they have as well. They were just a few plays away last year from hitting a walk-off field goal in Tuscaloosa last season. Remember, at the end of the game, we gave the ball back to them in solid field goal position. They just had to get another 15, 20 yards, and they would have been set up for a solid field goal. So, I would not be surprised if Alabama goes to South Carolina. It is a crazy environment. Whether it's a day game or a night game, they feel like they're going to be the underdog, and they're going to come out swinging. So as of right now, I've got Alabama losing that one. It is just a prediction. Hopefully that does not come to fruition, but I had to pick one loss at least in this schedule here for Alabama. So let me know here in the comment section, what game are you most nervous about? Is that Georgia game? Is it the South Carolina game? Is it the Iron Bowl? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section of today's video. So after that South Carolina game, you also get another bye week here on November 1st, and then after that always comes before that LSU game on November 8th. You played them in Baton Rouge last year, beat the hell out of them. You're going to be playing them at home this year, and I think Alabama gets the dub in this one as well. Look, LSU has a ton of roster turnover. They lost 23 players in the transfer portal, and they also added 18 players in the transfer portal as well. Still think their defense could probably still be pretty good with Harold Perkins Jr. coming back from that ACL injury. Their middle linebacker, Whit Weeks, is also a dog. So I think the big thing is, can LSU stop the run? That really hurt them last season in both that Texas A&M game, they had the bye week, and then that Alabama game as well. The big key, man, how is Garrett Nussmeier going to be in 2025? He threw for a lot of yards in 2024, but he also had a lot of just bonehead plays, man. Talk to our guy Tom Downey here. He's really our draft analyst here, and he says he has the bozo gene, and I think that really describes Garrett Nussmeier a lot. He's got a lot of traits. He's got a solid arm. He's got, really solid playmaking ability. He can run the ball. I know last year he had negative 38 rushing yards. A lot of that came on sacks, even though their offensive line was supposed to be really, really good. But, at the end of the day, it really wasn't as good as I think a lot of people really put that stock into it. But, the progression of Garrett Nussmeier is really going to be key for LSU season next year. But I do think Alabama is going to get the win on November 8th. All right, now another get-back game here for the Crimson Tide. Oklahoma on November 15th. I think that this one's going to be a win as well. Defense will probably be pretty good again, I think, for Oklahoma. If there's one thing that Brett Venables does really, really well, it's putting together a really solid defensive game plan. And you saw that last season when Alabama went and played them. Obviously, coming off that LSU game last year, Jalen Milroe had an incredible rushing game against LSU, and then was not able to do anything against Oklahoma. Granted, didn't have a lot of help from some of his wide receivers as well. Obviously got screwed out of that touchdown, to Ryan Williams, which should not have been called back. That was just a bad call from the referees, and shame on the SEC and shame on the NCAA for never coming out and actually say the referees got that one wrong. But you've got John Mateer, whatever you want to call him. He is going to be their quarterback this year as well. He was pretty decent at Washington State last year, threw for over 3,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. But they also got this guy right here, Jaden Ott, transfer running back out of UCLA. Last year, he was kind of banged up, in and out a little bit, only played 10 games for UCLA. But, man, if they can get that 2023 version of Jaden Ott with 1,300 yards, over 5 yards per carry, same as 2022 as well, had almost 900 yards, over 5 yards per carry as well, 20 total touchdowns in those 2 seasons, that guy could be, some trouble for the SEC and possibly for Alabama next year. But as of right now, I do have Alabama winning that game against Oklahoma. All right, yet again, another cupcake game here against Eastern Illinois on November 22nd. I've got Alabama getting that dub before they go to Jordan-Hare Stadium on November 29th, last game of the season. I've got Alabama winning the Iron Bowl in Kalen DeBoer's first Iron Bowl in Jordan-Hare Stadium. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's just F Auburn. I really don't care what they have going on their roster. I really don't care about the atmosphere of Jordan-Hare Stadium. I do not care what Auburn has going. Give me the Crimson Tide by 90.